Let them talk if they want to. Talk don't bother me. I want the whole world.
And welcome to Let 'em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo.
And I'm Miss Joan Marie Moosey.
And our guest is Jacob Burckhardt, filmmaker extraordinaire with a show of his films, a retrospective, beginning at the Anthology Film Archive, which is in the Lower East Side on 2nd and 2nd, and we'll be telling you about that a lot, I guess, in the next half hour, as well as showing...
For 2 nights.
This Thursday and Friday.
Yes, and we're going to go into Miss Moosey's own films we're going to be showing right now, and we'll be talking about some of the wonderful films. As I was reading about your films, which I haven't seen as many as I would love to have seen.
Well, you got a chance.
I know, I got to go see it now because I was reading about them, and they were pretty amazing films. Let me just, before we jump into anything, I read now that the Pope has come to the United States and will be coming to New York.
I hope he comes to the screening. I'd like to. I sent him an invitation.
I think he should.
Yeah.
You did was it a? Now I just read the clipping. Was it a film about Catholicism, about Rome, about?
Oh well, there's a film about Rome, and in fact, his predecessor appears in it.
Oh,
John Paul. Yeah, very briefly. But somebody said, it's a film about Rome. And he said, "Do you have the Pope in it?" And I said, "As a matter of fact, yes." And he was there. It's a very kind of a somber movie about Rome and the streets and the sidewalks. But I went to St. Peter's, and there he was. So I got him in it.
Right. So
it's irresistible.
Let's begin then by telling folks where they can see this and other films this week.
I have two programs. One is on the Thursday the 17th, and the other is on Friday the 18th. At 7:30 p.m. at Anthology Film Archives, which is on the corner of 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue.
And it's interesting because you're showing all shorts in these 2 programs.
Right.
But you have made feature movies also.
Right. Well, there's one featurette, a couple of featurettes, I guess. I call them featurettes because they're
like
longer than a short. And I did make a couple of features. One of them I made, which was called "It Don't Pay to Be an Honest Citizen," and I released that on DVD recently, and that's become actually kind of popular because it has in it, not only does it have William Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg, but also Vincent D'Onofrio, who is now a pretty big star. And so a lot of people that dig him want to get copies of that. And that was my first feature, and it's been downhill ever since. But one of the...
His next was Landlord Blues.
Landlord Blues.
Which is an iconic film, let's face it. It really chronicles the struggle between landlords and tenants on the Lower East Side. And
Tell us about Mr. Fashion and the film about the great New York City soul star who died all too young.
The Frankie Lyman's nephew story.
Frankie Lyman's nephew.
Well,
and Frankie Lyman, for those who might be too young to know, wrote the big hit song from the early '60s.
Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
Why Do Fools Fall in Love?
And
at a very young age. I didn't know that.
He was a teenager. He was Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers.
And the Teenagers,
And one of the
cool... Harlem Airs before that.
Oh, yeah?
I thought that was that.
Oh, I never heard of that. One of the cool things about that movie was that it got me to introduced me to Miss Joan Marie Moosey.
Oh, thank you
when she was in her downtown icon exotic period. And she has a big part in that film.
I play one of Frankie's wives.
Right, and...
well, that's the story about Frankie, because when he died of a heroin overdose at the age of 25, it turned out that he had married 3 women.
Something like that. Well, nobody really cared about that until the copyrights of the songs became lapsed. And there was some strange law that said that if the artist is still alive when the copyright has to be renewed, then the person that he sold it to owns it. And, of course, he sold it for $20 to somebody. But if the artist is dead, then it reverts to his heirs. And so his wife came forward and said, it's mine. And then his other wife came forward. And I think, like you said, 3 wives came forward.
And so, Joni, you played one of those wives.
I played one of the wives, I did.
Right, and in a wedding dress.
Right.
Well, you were the most important one because you showed up more than anyone else.
So I got in
the biggest
more
part, yeah.
By the way, we are live on the air today and Let Them Talk, and you can see the phone number right there on the screen, 212-757-1538. And feel free to call and join the conversation with Jacob Burckhardt, filmmaker, who's, we'll be showing a clip of Miss Moosey Smells a Rat in a little while. Tell us a little bit about the history of that film.
Well, that came, I guess, after we made the Frankie Lyman's nephew story, because that's I didn't know you before that. And I think it's based on a true story.
It is based on a true story.
And we were just, I remember talking, you were telling me this true story, and I thought, well, it'd be a great subject for a movie. Yeah, and
because we've worked on a couple of things together, that and
the
karaoke thing, and then I've also been in some of your movies, and you've actually been in mine also.
That's right. I played a flasher.
That's right, in Relaxercise.
Yes, that was one of my
So Jacob and I have
cameos.
worked together for each other.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it is downtown.
It's
People
really
work with
great,
each other.
yeah.
Like this. Really. Yeah.
I think we should play a clip from the film. We
I
should
think
go
so.
right to that, so we'll have something to talk about.
Not even a clip. The whole
The
thing.
whole
It's
thing.
only 3 minutes.
It's only about 2.5 minutes.
So
Right.
we're going to show Miss Moosey Smells a Rat. Our own Joan Moosey is the star of this film, and it's a true story.
Yes.
Based on a true
Based on a
story.
true story. It's not a mockumentary.
It's a mockumentary, yes.
So much for helping me with my stuff. Gee, Miss Moosey, to come and see your place. I love your singing, your dancing, your acting. I love your act. You're wonderful. Thanks so much. Hope you don't mind the mess. Now I'll get to see how a real showbiz personality lives. Welcome to my happy home. Gosh, you have a lot of bananas.
That's because I know what to do with them.
Now, how about a cocktail, honey? Sure.
Shot of Jack?
Terrific. Oh, more bananas.
Yeah.
I love your plants. The ivy, the ficus. Ficus? What's this?
It's a broom.
Broom plant?
Mr. Rodriguez, come in, please, come in.
Miss Moosey, how many times I tell you about the noise with your girlfriend parties, huh?
No, it's a rat.
Tú no contento, nena. You don't got no pussy, huh? No pussycat?
Get it out of here, please. Get it out.
Good night, Mr. Rodriguez. Thank God it's over. Oh, Miss Moosey.
Buenas noches, ladies. Estas mujeres y su mierda y sus mariconerías botándome un ratoncito en la medianoche, yo en mis payamas, coño, en vez de botarse ellas mismas.
Mention the other actors. I just wanted to mention the other actors, Kate Hughes and Pedro Rosado, playing the super, of course.
Mm-hmm. That's a real slice of life. That's the way life is really lived on the Lower East Side. Rats and roaches, they're part of our life, but we love them. We love them.
Well, that was a fun movie. That was definitely funny because it's a very real movie. It's a very New York type movie, right?
Yeah.
Only in New York,
Only
I
in
think.
New York.
Well, we have rats in other, I think there are rats in other places too.
You don't usually find them inside your living quarters, or have stories like a kid who told me a story the other day, a 10-year-old kid about a rat that jumped on his back. When he
Okay. Very nice, Paul. Thank you.
We can also, well, let's tell more rat
we can
stories
all,
now.
people can call in with plenty of rats.
I'm sure they can.
Yeah.
I'm sure they can. well.
But let's talk some more about the program coming up, because the other thing that's interesting is that one night is in color and one night is in black and white. And tell us a little bit about...
Yeah, well, the first night is the color night, and that begins with like a postmodern dance performance piece with a woman called Lalin Jayaman from 1974. And it's like, it's in Soho, when Soho was Soho was Soho, and the Lower East Side too. And it's based on an exorcism dance from Sri Lanka, which is where she's from.
Oh, how interesting.
And then the next movie is called This Object. And, well, I haven't shown it in, like, a long time, and I don't think it'll show for a long time after this. It has kind of interesting acting, very, very stylized, I don't know. And sometimes I don't want to look at it, but anyhow, I think you'll like it.
We're going to look at it on Thursday.
Right.
Yes.
And then, for like a palate cleanser, is the Frankie Lyman's Nephew story, or Why Do Fools Fall in Love, which is the true story of Frankie Lyman's nephew. And
that's a pretty rip-roaring movie.
It sure is, yeah. Yeah, it sure is. And it's about him and his wives, and it starts with the end, and it goes on from there. The end is how he died in his grandmother's bathroom and Mr. Fashion plays that. And
also a wonderful actor.
Absolutely, he's a great performer. We've worked together a lot. And also Royston Scott is in it. Who's another great downtown actor.
Another fantastic actor and performer.
With whom I've collaborated on several movies since then. And then, well, that's it for that night. And then the second night is all these sort of more somber, artistic, moody black and white movies. They're sort of documentaries. One is called Black and White, and it's about Rome. No, that's about the Lower East Side, and it's trees and birds, and it's very quiet and still. And then there's one about Rome, Italy, with also a lot of black and white stones and things like that.
And the Pope, don't forget.
And the Pope, yes.
The former Pope.
Right, and the former Pope, right. And then there's one called August 27th, 1979, The Girl Can't Help It. And that's with Yoshiko Chuma, she's in the Jane Mansfield part, although she's quite different than Jane Mansfield. Among other things, she has black hair.
And Yoshiko is also a very well-known choreographer, modern dance performer.
Right. She's going to be doing something at Japan Society in the middle of May, in fact. And she does a lot of, This is at the very beginning of her career as a postmodern performer, actually. I think she had done a few performances then, and it was before she started her company called the School of Hard Knocks.
That's right, which is internationally well-known.
Right. And then there's this movie called The Surface, which I'm trying to do something different with, because it's all of those things, by the way, are in 16mm film. And The Surface is, I try to do it different. I've showed it several times, but it's supposed to be different every time. And this time,
you did the sound live, right?
Yeah, and this time I'm doing it on 2 screens, so there's going to be one image and one image next to each other. And
that's interesting.
I decided that I couldn't figure out how to edit it, so I thought I would do it randomly. And so I just sort of did it, like made a list of the shots and then like some kind of random number generator, and I just put them together. And of course, changed it a little bit now here and there. And then, they're also happening next to each other, so you don't know what's going to combine with what. And then I'm going to try to do the music live for it. So,
I'm playing what?
Well, I'm playing a laptop, and I'm going to be mixing music. I'm not going to be playing music, but I'll be mixing sounds.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because you have an expertise in sound engineering and...
Yeah, I've done mixing for people for a while. Yeah, I did do that.
And a lot of projects, live and film projects.
Well, I've also worked in a sound studio mixing for movies, yes, exactly. And I did... so I try to have good soundtracks in my films. I try to work really hard on that.
Now, the whole concept of the last movie, does that grow out of the Jack Smith thing, how he would perform a movie live, sort of?
That's a good... I never thought of it that way, but it's true. It's quite true. Yeah, I've thought of him.
Performance / film.
He would be I don't have the nerve to do what he did though, because he would be editing his films in the theater. I remember one time he put the film up and it was upside down and backwards, and he said, "Oh, I guess I have to rewind it." and he rewound it. And we, you know, it was at a club, and everybody was drinking and carrying on.
So they didn't care.
No,
Right.
and so he rewound it and put it up, and it was still upside down and backwards because he had spliced the head to the head. So then, I guess I have to change this, and we had some more drinks and danced and everything, and then
He got out a razor blade.
right, we had a splicer with him and everything, yeah.
Right.
And so you know, so it was that, yeah, and so I don't have the nerve to do that though. I mean, I mean, you know, he was brilliant that way, and he had no fear. I mean, he would just go ahead, and if people walked out, they walked out. That was fine with him, you know.
Well, we're here live with Jacob Burckhardt. I'm Paul DiRienzo with Miss Joan Marie Moosey. Our number is there on the screen, 212-757-1538. Jacob Burckhardt, a great filmmaker. Just a few moments ago, we watched a film he shot that Miss Moosey, I guess, wrote and as well as starred in, or came up with the idea.
Let's say we just collaborated on the whole thing, because when you try to divide up the work, it's kind of hard to say who did what.
Right. Miss Moosey Smells a Rat. It was a great film.
Although I will take responsibility for the costume. I won't blame that on you.
So, Jacob,
and the script, too.
How you started in a film career?
Well, when I was in college, somebody, and I guess I have to admit, it was my father, gave me a camera. A 16mm camera, and actually he was a filmmaker too.
Your father's a very important artist, really, Burckhardt.
Actually, his films and photographs are playing right now at the Museum of the City of New York. And so he was a filmmaker, and
what are some of the things he filmed in?
Well, he did a lot of New York films, and there are a lot of, most of them are, he made 101 movies, and a lot of them are short documentaries about New York or other places, and he worked with a lot of poets. And he started in 1936. I think his first movie was in '36, and he died. He died in 1999 and he had finished a couple of movies that year. And like I said, 101 films. And so he was very tolerant and very helpful with me. I mean, he just gave me the camera, and you know, he was very encouraging. And so I started doing kind of underground films, and I didn't. And they were all sort of visual, you know, the kind of film where one person does everything. I did the camera and the editing, so you know, I gradually got more ambitious, and then I ended up making those features that I was talking about in the '80s, and so you know, a lot of the movies. I mean, I made a bunch of films that I wouldn't dare show. I mean, I wouldn't dare show, you know, but you know,
I don't have that kind of shame.
You know, you learn.
What was your first movie?
It was called Pentagon Ecstasy, and it was it was part of it was in my college dormitory, and part of it was, I think it was the 1968 or 9 or 7 March on Washington.
Really?
Where one of the things was to levitate the Pentagon. I don't know.
That's the yippies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of that.
Yeah, and that was at
Paul's a
67
yippie.
or 68. I don't know.
I believe it was
67.
67. Yeah, it was the levitating the Pentagon.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know, Miss Moosey, Joni just was the docent at the Yippie Museum, and just a couple weekends ago, and
gave a tour.
you can check out our website, I guess, our blog, and see it at youtube.com/letemtalk, LETEMTALK, and see.
Find out more about the yippies and about the Yippie Museum.
Yippie Museum Cafe as well. Museum.
I
But
should
so
go
that's,
there.
yeah, we could play your video there. That'd be a great idea.
I would like to go there. Yeah.
Yeah. check
Oh,
it
it's
out.
a wonderful place.
I call it a video. Everybody's a video, but you're a filmmaker.
Films.
Yes,
Yeah, we
these
can
are
play it on
films.
video.
That's an important thing, though, to bring up,
Yeah.
because you know, everybody's going around with a film camera, with a video camera these days, and calling themselves a filmmaker, but really they're shooting video. What's the difference between film and video in your mind? Is there a
Well,
difference?
actually, I mean, the movie called The Surface is what I think about, because that's the last movie that I'm sort of improvising with, because what's interesting to me, it's called The Surface because there's the surface of the screen that you see, then there's the surface of what's ever in front of the camera, then there's the surface of the film with dirt and scratches and stuff, and that's all part of it, and that's kind of interesting to me. So I don't mind, you know, it gets projected several times, you see the splices, you see schmutz, little schmutz here and there, and that kind of thing, and to me that's part of it. It has this sort of physicality, and
it's sort of like an album as opposed to a CD.
Yeah.
Many people still, you know, are buying turntables and never went out.
Right,
LPs
exactly,
never went
yeah,
out, really.
exactly, yeah, and because there's the scratches in the LPs, and then also the ritual of putting the needle on the record, and it's sort of also the ritual of threading up the projector, and then and all those things are really part of it. I used to think, I used to like film more than video because video looked so crummy and it just didn't look as good as film. And now, video looks sort of cleaner than film. It's cleaner than film, and I miss the jiggliness and But I've worked.
Well, now they have the last camera I had. It had everything you needed right on the camera to create all those effects.
Right, exactly.
And a big instruction manual this thick on how to make your video.
How you make that work.
Like fake being a film camera.
Right. I must say though that the Frank E. Lyman's nephew story is a video, so I'm not. Yeah.
Well, because you're not a snob.
No, I've worked with both. I mean, it doesn't. It's. I mean, a moving image is a moving image, and that's the bottom line, I think. And
so I want to go back and talk more about, because I'm fascinated by one of your first movies, The Levitation in the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that movie. Because back in 1967, it was a war just like today, and protesters surrounded during the Vietnam the Pentagon and outside of Washington, and they attempted to levitate it. It was a classic yippie action, the purpose of which is to bring humor and insight into a very dark situation, the Vietnam War, and a place that was, I think probably a more effective protest than flying an airplane full of people into it, as far as protesting affected the United States. So tell us a little bit about how.
Well, I was a freshman in college then, and I can't say I was particularly aware of a lot of things, but it was, and so a lot of the movie, in fact, takes place in the dorm. But I had this camera, and it was an old newsreel camera. It was a Bell & Howell, and it was the kind of camera that you can drop, 6 feet onto asphalt and then pick it up and keep shooting with it. And I brought it with me, and it was this amazing thing. We were around. I remember it was it's the reflecting pool, right? The big rectangular pool, and people all around it. And then we marched to the Pentagon, and then, I think by the time the levitation was going on, it started getting dark. So I was running out of light for the camera, but there was some shots of it, and you see some images of people on the parapet of the Pentagon, and it wasn't, it was not a documentary that tells you a story or anything like that.
That's what
it was
I was
just a bunch of images.
Say, there's not a storyline
But
per
it's
se.
fascinating to have gotten sometimes just to have been at a historic thing like that, but at the time you might not have recognized.
No, absolutely.
It was another protest in a way, many protests against the war, but there was something about that protest that clicked in the public imagination, and it's been with us to this day, where people who weren't even alive then will tell you, they'll remember that, they'll remember the pig that ran for president.
Right.
I think it happened last year.
Yippee pranks,
I'm trying to tell you, didn't that happen last year?
Yeah,
it's something like that. So it was great that you were there and got something.
Yeah. I used, let's see, well, it was Ornette Coleman music. It was some real wild sort of anarchistic music by Ornette Coleman that I just played in the whole thing.
Where did you go to college?
I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and I didn't study film though. I just had the camera, and I made some other films there that I wouldn't dare show in public. And
you
then,
did not study film?
No. I mean, I just learned about. I mean, I studied film by doing it and by going to movies, which I think are the two most important ways. But not in college. No, I didn't take any course. I took one course at college, but that was it. And the rest is just doing it and watching films. And now I teach it a little bit. So.
Are you still at Cooper Union?
Yeah, I teach at Cooper Union and at Pratt. And it's mainly the courses are showing movies.
Film.
Yeah. Production, so it's more about how to make movies and how to look at movies. And
how do you teach? Do you send the students out with cameras and tell them to look for a story?
Well, in the Film 1 course, they use Super 8 cameras, and they
I love the Super 8 cameras.
and
I had one in high school. Video and all this.
Again, it's something you can feel and touch and project, and it's funky. I mean, it's hard.
And you were limited. I mean, a one cassette had what, 5 minutes of film in it, or something?
No, it was 3.
3 minutes, right? It was 3 minutes of film. So you had to know years before and what you were going to do.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of thing that film teaches more than video, really, which is a kind of economy, which is that you plan what you're going to do and you do it and you don't waste time. It's money, and whereas video, you just leave it on.
I download 20 gigabytes worth of footage and then spend my whole life like, how can I even log all this
through this?
Exactly. I mean, I know a friend who's making a documentary about a dancer, and he has 400 hours of video. And what are you going to do? It's like a year's worth of viewing.
Even just to edit it.
Yeah, just to look at it and then just select it. And so if you do a film, you don't have to spend so much time editing it because you're more careful when you shoot.
All right, filmmaker Jacob Burckhardt, tell us about how folks can see all these films that we're discussing right now. They're going to be at the Anthology Film Archive, which is at 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue in Manhattan.
Right.
And you can take the
F
train, the D
is
train
very near
goes
there.
right?
The F is stops
Is
2
the
blocks away.
closest.
2 blocks
Yeah.
away.
And then you can go to
Second
the,
Ave-
take
get out
the,
at Second Avenue.
you can also take a train to Astor Place and walk from 8th Street to 8th Street to 2nd, I mean, walk along 8th Street to 2nd Avenue and then down to
south towards Houston. It's right by Houston.
Yeah, and it's at 7:30 on Thursday and Friday. 2 different programs at Anthology Film Archives in
So
the
you can
Maya
go both
Deren room.
nights.
And you
Yes.
can go to the Anthology Film Archives website. I don't know the address offhand, but just go, type it
Yeah.
into your favorite search engine, Anthology Film Archives in New York City, and it comes right up. And all the information you need to see this show over Thursday and Friday is there on the website.
I'll be there both nights too.
All
So.
right. To discuss, will you be taking questions and talking about your film?
Yeah, if they're not too difficult.
Well, we'll take your questions.
Yeah.
We'll take questions now from you film lovers out there. We have
Yeah.
a few minutes, and we're live,
Yeah.
212-757-1538, Jacob Burckhardt. If there's any aspiring filmmakers out there, anybody wants to know how you make a film, here's the guy to talk to.
All you need is a camera and some film. That's what I learned. That was the most important thing I learned in the beginning. Was all you need. You don't need production values. You don't need a crew. You don't need this. Don't need that. You need a camera and some film, and that's all. And now the video camera and some videotape too. But and in any case, you just have to and you got to look at what you see.
Have to
you
do
look,
it, right?
You have to look and think about what's going to be in front of the camera too. I mean, just shooting indiscriminately. Well, you might get something good eventually, but you have to think about what you're going to see.
Well, what do people shoot when they shoot film nowadays? Like on a small scale, there's still Super 8. Is that still a popular format? Or?
People use Super 8 because they use it for a look because it's a very specific
style,
look.
yeah.
And but I think most people use mini DV or DV, and because it's really sharp and clear. And then and there are these filters to make it look like a movie anyhow.
Right.
But,
so that's mostly how people do it.
Yeah.
Very good.
But I think film is not going to die because there's always going to be weird people that like its specific look. Just like photography with film is not going to die either.
How about major films that are going towards the video direction as well?
Well, I think they still shoot on film. Actually, they shoot on film and then they digitize it, and then sometimes they go from the digital back to film to make the prints, and sometimes they. There are various ways of doing it afterwards, but I think they still, because the one thing about film is that it's a proven archival medium, because films that are 100 years old are still good. Well, not many of them. If they're taken care of.
Right. And isn't there a big like the National the Library of Congress and the National Archives are
and the Anthology Film Archives is a great place for that. It is an archive, and they're very serious about being
and they have
preserving
refrigerated preservation rooms.
Right, and they also restore movies. They've restored a lot of old movies.
I love old movies.
That's
too.
an interesting topic on restoration of movies.
Oh, we're coming down. We have about a minute left.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jacob Burckhardt, for joining us.
It's been a pleasure. I hope some people can come and see the screening. I'll see you tomorrow.
Check it out.
No, day after tomorrow.
Thursday
the day after
and
that. I'll
Friday.
see you then if you come.
Right.
Anthology Film Archives,
it's
2nd Street and 2nd Avenue, 7:30.
It's a treasure on the Lower East Side.
Yes, and they have a lot of good programs there, actually. Yeah, not only this.
Great, thank you.
Right.
And Joni, thank you for allowing us to screen your film.
Oh, please, I'm delighted.
It was a thrill to see it again. It looks good, doesn't it? You look great in it.